Welcome, everybody, and welcome. And this is the free ebooks masterclass. We plan on doing these every third Wednesday at this time, and we apologize if we're an hour late because I think I might have scheduled StreamYard for an hour before I meant to schedule it, which seems kind of strange, but there's been a bunch of people asking an hour ago if the thing was canceled, and no, it's not. We're just starting now. So thank you for joining us. You've got places to put comments, and feel free to do that. Ask any questions. Free ebooks. I'm just going to take a second and talk about that so that you know what it is that we do. We have over 9 million readers, and we have over 50,000 ebooks. And our whole mission is to help authors who basically, if you want to be a published author by one of the major publishing books companies, you have to have a huge following. You have to have huge successful books. You basically have to be Stephen King. And how do you start creating that community? Well, one way that you can do it is you can come to free ebooks and you can publish your book here for free. And our 200,000 people that come every week to look for books may find your book and may download your book, and then you can start creating your community. And once you have a large community, you can go to the publishers and say, listen, 10,000 people have read my book, left reviews, they love my writing, and you should take on my book. So that's what we do for authors. For readers, you get 5 free ebooks every month for free forever. And we really appreciate everybody that supports us. So we have over 50,000 books. We have over 100 categories. You just head on through, take a look. We have editor picks. If you download a free ebook and we have newsletters, and you can, like for sci-fi, we have a sci-fi newsletter, and every week we send out 3 or 4. We want one newsletter with 3 or 4 ebooks that we recommend. So that's what we're about. And with us today is Wendy Melrose. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to the webinar. And tell us a little bit about Resilient Press.
Hey, so Resilience Press is a writing and self-publishing facilitating company where we help people go from concept all the way to completion, or if they've got a book that's been in their brain or started and never finished, we specialize in that. And the reason for resilience is a lot of my clients are from trauma, tragedy to victory story, but I do help with other things as well. So, and we're going to talk today about how to write your memoir.
Awesome. So just to give you an idea of our agenda, we have 3 parts. The first is pain to promise. How do you find the heart of your memoir? The second part is the reader journey. How you can write a memoir that people feel, that you can really make connection with your audience. And the third part is writing with rhythm, the real secret to finishing your book. And Wendy, I don't know about you, but I am a tremendous starter. I get all excited. Oh yeah, I'm going to write my book. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then, I get 3 pages written, and then life happens. It's raining, or, the baby next door is crying, or I'm hungry, or, I feel a little tired today. Well, I have a gazillion reasons to stop. So, and I suspect I'm not alone. And that's really one of the benefits that you bring to the table when people work with you.
Well, exactly. And, so often when I do hear that, one of my clients had said, I'm not a finisher. And I go, well, let's not say that or declare that over ourselves. With me, you will be a finisher. And he did finish it last spring. And, sometimes you just need someone to give you encouragement, give you steps, give you a guide, give you a timeline, touch in with you. Accountability is a big key anytime we do anything in life, right?
Yep. It just makes such a difference. So many people feel alone, particularly today with the way social media is, and we're always on our phone. We're never really in groups of people without all looking at our phones and just interacting. And because of that, it's like, oh, I have to do this all by myself. And that's really the hardest way to do anything. The easiest way is to find other people who will support you in your journey, that you can talk to, and give you that boost that just comes from interacting with people. So let's talk a little bit about the pain to promise. So
Sure.
what does every memoir, particularly powerful memoirs, because that's what we want to write, begin with?
So when when we remember that every powerful memoir begins with a transformation, your before and your after. So if you're currently living out your life and you're still in pain, and I tell people a lot that be like, well, my story's not over. None of our stories are going to be over until our life is over, right? And there could be different compartments of, okay, over here, we have gone from a journey where we are no longer in pain, we're living in victory, but we've got something over here that we're still learning and processing and all of that. We don't have to have all of our compartments of different things going on in our life figured out. But when God brings it to our heart, hey, you need to start sharing this story that I've brought you to victory. This is what I want you to write about. And so this is why I call it Pain to Promise. I learned that from Dallas Amson. He's a speaker and coach here in the Midwest, the United States. And the pain is the pain point that you want to identify with your reader, the pain that you've experienced that they are currently experiencing. So one of the things my pastor has said is, what in one column, put the life that the things that you've been through. On the right side is all the people who are going through the same thing. That's your ministry. So think about your book as a ministry tool, even if you don't believe in Christ, right? That's not the point here. The point is that you still have been through things. Other people are going through things. This is how you can change the world. So,
right.
Identify the pain point. And then what's the victory you're living people in today? And then the journey in between. So we start with pain. How are the readers like, man, I'm going through this. Is there anybody else that's been through this? They see your book like, oh my gosh, Jean's been through this. I've got to read the book. Or they're like, I want to live in this victory. How do I get there? And so that's the reason why they might pick up your book.
So Wendy, we're talking about memoirs. Is there a difference between a memoir and a biography?
You're asking me technical questions that I don't know. I mean,
when I think of a biography, I think of a boring life story. Okay.
Yeah.
I was born, I went to school, I graduated, I did this job, I became president of the United States, I dropped some bombs, and then I retired, and then I made a library, and then and it's kind of this, and I'm probably totally 100% wrong, but the biographies I've read have felt like that, right? Like it's a life story. Whereas when I'm hearing you talk about a memoir, I'm hearing something totally different. I'm hearing, like, I don't think of a biography as, well, I can learn life lessons and improve my life from what happened to this person. I just hear history.
Right.
Right. And what I'm hearing from you is this is something that can really intimately impact people on a very personal level.
Yeah. So there's a book that I read by Matthew Perry, who's no longer with us. Not Matthew. Is that right? Matthew Perry. Yeah, the Prince guy. He's no longer with us, but when I was reading his book, it's a big train wreck of his drug addiction, right? But that's one way to write a memoir. But he also talks about like how he started programs for other people like him who's in perpetual addiction to try to get out.
Right.
That's not the memoirs we're talking about either. So that's, to me, I think that's more of a biography type thing, because he talked about his life, about, his mom in Canada, and she was married, dating the prime minister there, and then, blah, 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 blah. That's a biography. And I guess technically a memoir could also be that, just your life story from beginning to end. But I believe in transformation. Nobody I'm just going to be blunt. Nobody cares about your life story other than maybe your kids and your relatives. What
Yeah,
people
like
really, yeah.
I and had an audiobook on Michael Jordan,
Okay.
and it explained why it did a very good job of explaining why he was so driven. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was one of the lessons I got out of it. The second one was he was actually cut from his basketball team in school,
Right.
and told to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, so he had the dip, and then he had the rise. But
Right.
if you wanted to have Michael Jordan's drive, you basically had to be black in the 1960s in North Carolina, in a small town that was mostly white. I mean, who has, you can't, there's no way there's no transformation there, right? Like there's no lesson of, okay, you've got this goal and you really want to be successful at it.
Right.
Well, what he did was he was a poor black kid in a white neighborhood in a small town in North Carolina. So what? You're going to tell your parents 20 years ago you should have moved to North Carolina? Like,
right.
Like how can that be applied to my life? It can't be, right?
Right.
And so, and maybe I missed everything that was important in the book. Someone else might read it and say, no, it was all this other things. But that's what I got out of it, right? So when we're talking, and I just want to really make sure everybody gets this point, when we're talking about a memoir, we're talking about using, and correct me if I'm wrong, using your story to transform lives and build community of people who are going through a similar journey, because we're all far more alike than we are different, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that'll kind of bring us to the reader journey, right? So this is where our memoir becomes more than a story. Readers want to relate to you. They want to see themselves in your story. So we always want, when we're writing it, and we can always use the power of AI that we'll talk about later on how to actually craft that. Because some of you might be like, I don't know how to write that. It doesn't matter, because this is where we can use AI to our advantage. You tell the story, we let it make sure it understands your author voice, and we make sure that we have it where it's reader faced. And so they see themselves in there. They get pulled into. Why do people like to read fiction? Because they get pulled into their imagination goes wild, and they see themselves in the castles, or fighting wizards, or at war, or in the Hunger Games, like all the different things. We can do the same thing with nonfiction. Does it mean that we have to have a word salad to get them there? I don't necessarily believe that, but what we can do is bring them on the journey with us and make sure that the more that we can connect our heart with their heart and their heart with ours, the more they can relate to it. And then they start to reflect on their own life, because what's something really beautiful is I was interviewing someone on my podcast, Healed Whole Called, and she was raped by her father.
Oh, no.
That would wreck someone's life. But it was one of those things. It was a generational thing that happened where family members hurt family members for generations. She was the first one at 15 to stand up and start breaking the cycle. So she believes things don't happen to us, they happen for us, and to change the trajectory of life for those after us. So it's all about a mind shift. So, it's just like,
Right.
the story about the twins, right? They are both born the same day, same parents, same situation. One grows up to be successful and change lives. The other one, ends up in alcohol and drug addiction. One it's a mindset thing, right? So we just want people to reflect on their life. Like, I can see myself, and let's just say that your story isn't what you think is transformational. It doesn't have to be, oh, I went from living homeless on the streets to the president of the United States. It doesn't have to be that big of a dramatic change. The point is that you did make it through, or even if you're like, but Wendy, I don't have the trauma story. Well, we don't have to have trauma to still live life to where someone could be like, wow, Jim, I've been through that. I'm currently going. It could be job loss. It could be. I don't know. Think of every single category in life. that
Right.
you've been through that took resilience for you to get to the other side. And I think there are
We've all had challenges and we've all had tough times.
right. If you haven't, you've been living under a rock.
You
So,
remind me of a good friend of mine, Joe Roberts. And Joe Roberts started sniffing glue when he was 12.
uh-huh.
And by the time he was 23, he could tell you the drugs he had not done on the palm, easier than the ones that he had, right?
Okay.
And he was in and out of jail, out and in of jail, and in and out of jail. And he eventually became a public speaker and spoke to the Canadian Association of Police Chiefs. And one of the first things he said, because he knew a fair number of the police chiefs, is, "Bet you never thought you'd see me up here." And so he conquered his addiction. He went back to college. He actually sold Xerox copiers. And he said, it was amazing, Scott. He said, I would go into this office and I would beg. Like I was on the street, I would say, can you give me a quarter? And they would spit in my face. But I would go into these offices and say, can you give me money for this copy machine? And they would politely say yes or no. And it was such an easy, people wondered how I could be such a good salesman. He says, compared to being on the streets and being spit at and sworn at and kicked at, selling was easy. And he grew his own company. And I remember him, it was a web design company. And I remember him and I going for a walk in the mountains. And he says, Scott, he says, I want to be a speaker. I've got this, from Skid Row to CEO idea, and I want to share it with the world. So I'm going to sell my company. And I said, Joe, that's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. And he goes, what? He says, nobody wants to listen to an ex-addict. They want to listen to the CEO of a successful company who was an ex-addict. And he goes, oh. So he kept his company and he started going and talking. And then he was at the pinnacle of his success. So he does what everybody does when they're at the pinnacle of success. He sabotaged himself and he went back on drugs.
Oh no.
He lost everything. And then one day, I hadn't heard from him for a couple of years. So I thought, like he's poor Joe. Like I didn't know what happened, but I, could feel it. So he calls me one day and he says, Scott, he says, I've got clean again. And I had been right. He had fallen off the wagon. And he says, I don't want any money. Because the first thing he told me was, don't ever give addicts money. So if I ask for money, don't give it to me. I says, yeah, okay. He says, but he says, I need some food. And my self-storage place is going to foreclose on me and sell all my stuff. So I need 3 months payment for it, $150. So I bought him some food. I looked after his self-storage. And son of a gun, he rose up again. It was a failure to success story. And hopefully, and the second time, whatever he didn't deal with the first time, he dealt with it so that he could have long-term success.
Yeah.
So those, so that's the extreme. So I look at that and I go, well, how can I beat that story? Which is totally the wrong, mindset, the wrong way to look at it, right?
Correct. Right. Well, because like even my own story where all I did, if I want to minimize it with words, all I went through was a divorce. But I prayed for harmony. And we have this amazing, harmonious, blended family where the dad comes over, we have dinner, we hang out, we're going to have Thanksgiving next week. That may not be a big, huge from down to up, but it's harmony. And so many people are like, how do you?
Wendy, if I can interrupt you for just a second,
Sure.
As someone who's gone through divorce, I don't need any more of a story than that. Like that to me that would be my dream come true when I was going through my divorce, right?
Yeah.
Like you could write a whole 300 pages on that aspect of your memoirs. And I need that.
Well, exactly. And, and it really is just as simple as I tell people, you just have to communicate better than when you were married. People are like, well, why? Well, we don't need to get into the why. That's for the memoir. So we're going to jump back into how we rise above into victory, just like they want to rise into victory, just like you. So when your story mirrors their experience, your story becomes their breakthrough. And whether, and if people are just like, well, I don't understand how I can do this. I've got tools for you. We'll announce towards the end on how you can get this all done. And people are like, but I don't have time. Okay. You don't need a lot of time to finish a book. I know you think you do, but inspiration is what gets.
Wendy, if I can jump in again, I want to really emphasize that point. That's a really, really important point. I don't have time. And I wanted, 25 years ago, I wanted to learn how to copyright, so write sales letters. And I bought a course, and the course would send me a chapter, which is like 10 pages every month. And this stack of pages just went higher and higher and higher. And I thought, I really want to do this course, but I don't have time. Like, what can I do? And I firmly believe in setting yourself up for success. Right. So I thought about it, and I said, well, what I could do is I could read 15 minutes a night before I go to sleep. So I took the stack, put it on my night table. And then every night I would read 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I was shocked at how fast it went down. Yeah. And I finished it. I didn't finish the questions. I didn't do the tests. I didn't do any of that stuff, but I read it. My goal was to read it. I read it, right? And I think that if we think about it and we say, okay, if my goal is to write a memoir, how many pages am I going to write a day? Right. And if I'm going to write 4 pages a day, where am I going to write it? Because my house is a mess. My desk is full of stuff and computers. My table's full of dishes. There's no place for me to write. So right there, I'm sabotaging myself, right? Because I look at it and I go, oh, I got to clean this mess up. And I clean the mess up and I'm tired. I want to go. So you really need to say, okay, this is like my writing area. I'm going to write here and I'm going to keep it so that all that's there is my paper for writing, or however I'm going to do that. And I used to write for a magazine in Vancouver. And what I did is I had a clipboard with paper on it. And I would take my youngest son to gymnastics for an hour. And so I would be in this huge gym where there's 50 to 100 kids yelling and screaming and running, and it's echoing, right? And I'd sit on this bench with my clipboard, and I'd be totally at peace. I'd look up, I'd see my son do a flip. He'd go to the end of the line. I would write, and I'd look up. He'd be almost at the front. He'd do another flip. So I was enjoying my son. He was having a good time, and I was writing. Right now, I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody, but it's all about finding places that you can do what you want to do and then setting yourself up. Because I could say I wanted to do it, take my son and forget the paper, or not have a clipboard. Imagine writing on paper with no clipboard, right? Or forget the pen. Like there's lots of things that you could do that would sabotage yourself. But I had the clipboard in the car, and I had pens in the car, so I never had a problem.
Right. Well, and even then, people are just like, okay, but like now I have all this written down by hand. Like I don't want to have to type it all out. We live in 2025, 26, and later, right? We have AI. We can take snapshots of it in GPT, and it'll instantly put it into text.
That's amazing. I just saw that the other day. Like these handwritten pages, you just put it into AI, and it types it all out for you. It's incredible.
It is super accurate. It can read cursive. It can read print. Now, if you're super sloppy, I'm not sure, but it can even read my sloppy handwriting, because I used to have this beautiful penmanship, and then I've gotten to the point where I so much.
I'm the same way.
So you just remember small steps. Don't write in the flesh. Don't be at the point where you're like, oh, I didn't write today, and then write in shame. That's not what you want to do. And plus, we're also going to use the power of AI when I can share with you later how we do that, to keep you on track. And, it is having the goals. If you just write, a page a day, by the time, or if you write, a page and a half a day, you'll have pretty much a whole book by the end of the month. And I know you're like, so I'm going to have a 35-page book. What you're not understanding is that with the text condensed at 8.5 by 11, formatted to 6 by 9 is a lot longer than you think. And also, really, but I don't want to write, 100,000 words. Do not think about the length. Do not think about just think about how can I make this story authentic and relatable to the other person and make it a very good story, regardless of how long it is. Don't think about what the should be, but make
Right.
it the best it could be. And that's all that matters. So,
yeah. And I think that's a super, super important point that people don't realize, because 100,000 words, I don't know how many pages that is, but that's totally overwhelming. So again, that's a way to sabotage your success. I remember watching a National Geographic photographer who was photographing things when you had to develop it yourself with film as opposed to now. And he said, one of the questions I get is, how many photos do you have to take to get that perfect shot? And he said, that's totally the wrong question. The right question is, did you get the perfect shot? Or did you get that awesome shot, right? Not how many does it take to get it. It's like, did you get it? Because there's no way of knowing, right? And he showed a lot of examples where one was with dandelions, right? And he saw this whole field of dandelions, and it was yellow. It was so gorgeous. And he thought, oh, this is great. And he went to get all his gear, and he returned the next day. And of course, what did the dandelions do? They turned into the puffs. So he was so disappointed. But then he took this amazing picture with the puffs, right?
Yeah, that's so good. It's so true.
Did you get the picture? Like, did you get the message that you wanted to get out?
Right.
If that's 1 page or 100 pages or 200 pages or 1,000 pages, that's what it is.
Absolutely. So I know that I keep bringing up AI, and I've actually created custom GPTs on how to create your author voice, and to be like, well, why would you need a GPT with your author voice? So then that way you can put it into your own GPT on a file that's, you label it my book, and then that way it always knows, hey, this is Scott. This is Scott. This is the book I'm writing. This is my author voice. I want you to remember this every time we work on this book. And then you'll end up creating I have a GPT to help you create the author voice. I then have a GPT to help you with the pain to promise and reader journey process. And then at the end of that, you will have an outline of what you want your book, and you work with it until you get it just right. And then it'll also help you create the questions for you to answer to stay on track in that outline. So one day, let's just say you want to work on the questions in chapter 1, and the next day you want to work on the questions for chapter 8. It doesn't have to be in order, because you'll put it all into a Google Doc, and then you'll answer it. The reason why Google Doc instead of Word, it auto saves. Yes, you can set up Word to auto save, but if you forget, it goes off of auto save, and then you lose everything. So the nice thing about writing on clouds is it does auto save. Now, if you're like, I want to handwrite it. I don't care. We can use the translation, but I don't care. This isn't about how we do things. It's just doing it. And then I created the Writers Master Plan community in order for you to stay accountable, for you to actually finish your book. So, Scott, did you have any questions about the Master Plan community, or do you want me to share my screen so I can walk people through what it is?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that community, because I think that's really important, where you can be around people who are heading off in the same direction as you. And you have that support. You have places where you can go and contribute, and you also have places where you can ask questions and get answers fairly quickly, and that's all very, very crucial to your success as an author.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Screen. Type screen. All right. So in here is, when you go into the links that Scott has shared with you guys, it'll take you to here, and it talks about the Writer's Master Plan. It's $5 a month, and that just gets you the basic community within, and I can show you what's in the basic community here is.
And the link is in the comments.
Yeah. So there's general discussion. So I'll do my best to post every day some different thoughts. You'll have the writer's playground where I might have a few videos and some social media tips. And then the publishing path where you can have, even on the $5 a month, you'll have author checklists. You'll have to how to do the pain to promise method. And then also there's a writer's master plan publishing roadmap. It's a comprehensive DIY just print guide on how to finish your book from start to finish. And then there's also faith and focus. So sometimes I'll put something there, some scripture encouragement. You do also have available at the $5 plan to purchase your Memoir Master Plan Pro, which will give more in depth than the guide in the other part. There's also Children's Book Master Plan Pro, which we aren't talking about children's books today, but you're like, but I'd like to do that one day because it's amazing how a lot of us want to write children's books and memoirs. So there's both of that available. You're going to see here, what's Storycraft Studio? I'll tell you about that in just a minute. So you would go into, 1 minute, you go into join, and then you have this option to be a premium or a VIP member. A premium member is the same as the standard member, but you get author access to the Storycraft Author AI Boost, which is what I was just showing you over here. You're like, what's the Storycraft Studio? And it says this is where you're going to find different GPTs to help you create your book. And then you have monthly meetings, what I call the Writer's Hot Seat, once a month, where you can ask questions, get coaching. The VIP is the same as the other two, but you're going to meet twice a month. And you get a little bit more. So you can also, you can join the Writer's Hot Sheet. So technically you can join 3 meetings a month to get your coaching that you'll need to help you get the book finished. So,
Nice.
Yeah. Any questions about any of this, Scott?
No, that's pretty clear. And I think it's a really important resource for people to have who are serious about writing.
Yeah, and this is on School. And the reason why I chose that platform is that they've got a really user-friendly app to go to our phones, and you can use it on your desktop. So, if you do have a place that you go to do your writing, you can take the School app with you on your phone to do that. If you're like, oh man, I'm stuck, I got a question. So then you can jump on a meeting if it's available that day, and you can go from there. So it's a really easy platform to use, and it's away from the drama of regular social media.
Right. That's important. Be focused, right? Don't be distracted.
Well, exactly. And that's one of the things I've been learning to do is to get off of social media more often. I went on vacation a couple of weeks ago, had my phone off for 4 days, realized I didn't die. So that was a good feeling. And but by controlling when I'm on my phone or when I'm on social media to only be certain hours, which is when I'm working, and in the evenings, I just turn it off. I just set my phone. If somebody's got something that they need to tell me, it can wait. And the same thing goes for you in your, making sure you're focusing on you, your family, your writing, and everything else can wait. The world will not cease to exist because you're not being engaged on doom scrolling. So.
Right. So we're coming to the end of our time. Everybody head into the comments, click on the School, check out the site. I think you'll find it's very beneficial for you. And Wendy, can you tell us maybe about a couple of your clients that you've helped create memoirs with?
Yeah, sure. So one of my absolute favorite clients, her name is Deanna Cotton. Her book is here. Oops, well, I've got it blurred, but Embracing the End. She is, when I met her in January of 24, she was initially diagnosed with ALS. She was a business coach and speaker. But a year later, she was given 9 months to live. When she lived, she's still living. It's been a year and 11 months since she was diagnosed. And Last fall, she told me, she goes, the Lord's not going to call me home until I finish this book. And the book needs to be about embracing the end. And it's not about embracing the end as in dying, but learning how to live now before our end of before we get a diagnosis. And so it's, I did help her start. I go, let me help you. I helped her work on the book. In January, she was literally dying. She had aspirating pneumonia. And I asked her husband, I go, should I just finish the book? And he's like, yeah, let's just finish it. And so I did. Then she lived. So it's a very special moment when you think your friend, because every time someone helps you with your book, you bond. Because I'm not just helping you. I'm not just going, all right, Scott, you're finished your book. Bye. We're no longer friends. You create a deep connection. And there was a point where we were going through, we were finishing it all. And she's like, I can't read it because her eyesight was so bad. And I'm like, so we spent 8 hours and I read the book to her. So does this happen with every type of coach out there? Does it even happen on the community you're about to join? I don't know. All I know is when we honor God with what he calls us to do, and you find the right people to help you do it, you become a community and friends. And she's sold, I don't know how much she sold, over 500 copies. Not bad for 6 months. And
what a beautiful story that is, Wendy.
yeah, so it's
Thank
pretty.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I have helped others. I've helped a man who's fallen out of a tree stand. And the main thing is also you could add at the end of each chapter a reflection questions to help the reader think about their life. So yeah, I'm very familiar. That's just 2 out of the 30 I've helped.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to share this with our audience.
Sure.
Make sure that you head over to school. The link is in the comments and check it out. And also head over to free-ebooks.net. If you're not already a free member, get 5 free books a month, and we have over 50,000 from you to choose from. And if you're an author, remember us when you want to help promote your book, because you can certainly put your book on our site and grow your community.
Yeah.
So, Wendy, any last words before we sign off?
Now, just to remember, you are not alone. Your story was for purpose, and the world is ready to hear it.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I have to do something before we do this, or else something's going to be playing that I don't want to see.